Welcome to this new edition of Ines Insights. I am Roy Canada, and today we have another pressing topic on the agenda, which is the ongoing dynamics of war and violence in the Democratic Republic Congo. In international media, other than issues of local extractive economies and the role of the Congo in new green developmentalist projects around the world, what we usually face are new developments in ongoing and unresolved armed conflicts, especially between the M23 armed group on the one side and government forces on the other side. And when then earlier this year, M23 fighters managed to actually conquer the city of Goma, this became quite an international issue and diplomatic concern, as the Rwandan president was charged with massive critique given the Rwandan support for this group, so that even the new US Secretary Marco Rubio was on a diplomatic mission to contain the fallout of these new military escalations. Now, to speak about these recent developments and what they mean for the Democratic Republic, but also to put them into a larger historical perspective, we are very happy that we have with us today Lazare Rukundwa Sebitereko. Lazare is a theologian. He studied theology in Kenya, and then in Pretoria, he got to receive his PhD at the University of Pretoria, and he has since had various academic positions in his career. He was a Humphrey Fellow at Penn State University and at George Mason in the USA. He was visiting research fellow at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. He was also a visiting scholar at Cornell University and a scholar in peace building at Eastern Mennonite University in the USA. And his publications usually cover themes of theology, politics, and anthropology. He has been president and rector of the Ebenezer University in the DRC, where he is a professor of theology, conflict management, community development, and anthropology. And he continues to act as visiting lecturer at universities like Cornell, the Hebrew University, and many others. On this topic of today, he, of course, can draw on his long experience in and with socio-economic and political issues in the Great Lakes region, which he has been working on since 1982. And he usually works on the connections between the levels of community, regional, and international politics. Now, sadly, Lazare has not been left untouched of the violence and the fighting. As an active political member of the Banyamulenge community in the Congo, he had to face imprisonment as he was arrested in June 23, so 2 years ago, without official charges, and was then held captive in the capital, Kinshasa, from July 23 to September 24. And his imprisonment was officially justified based on claims that he was calling for violent resistance against the government, which is a charge he always rejected. And in prison, unfortunately, like so many others, he faced serious maltreatment by the authorities and by prison staff, including the lack of access to medical treatment in light of deteriorating health conditions. Experiences that did not prevent him from fighting for solidarity among inmates and for better treatment and for helping out each other as inmates. Luckily, he was then released last year, and he has then also used this time since then to think about new approaches of how to fight for more humane approaches, even for imprisoned persons and political prisoners like him. So for the listeners, even scholars of international relations and political science do not really have sufficient overview and understanding of the ongoing conflict dynamics in the Democratic Republic Congo. One usually, at least in Germany, lives off the media depictions of everlasting violence, of gross interference by regional powers and neighboring countries, of marginalization and poverty, and then of armed groups profiting of violence and of the central government barely being in control across its former territory. So there's the usual depiction of there being a lack of territorial and political order. And under these conditions, it is almost impossible, if one is not properly connected through the narrations of persons and communities affected by these conflict dynamics, to then be able to reflect and maybe make much more sense of the ongoing violence. So to get also a micro perspective to all these realities rarely, if ever, happens, at least in the German settings, especially if you compare that to the many other ongoing conflicts and wars in the world. We are therefore very happy to have you, Lazare, with us today so that we may speak about these issues and themes. And we are so glad that we could do this through the perspective of someone with, yes, quite a unique perspective, if one may say so, that is through the perspective of members of the Banyamulenge community in the DRC. And for that, it is just such a privilege for us to have you with us, Lazare, so that we may at least get some more insight into one of the existing conflict dynamics, which have to do with that community and that minority, which again has a very unique history in the DRC. So maybe you could start with that, and doing that, maybe briefly elaborate on these historical legacies in the DRC and Banyamulenge context.
Thank you very much, Roy. It is my sincere appreciation that I'm able to come and share with you our perspective on what is going on. And it is not a story that starts today, but I think it has a history behind it. I think I would start bringing the issue from colonial past, because the Banyamulenge people are Tutsi, and they belong to the Congo and eastern part. Of course, which eastern part has shares borders with Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, and Uganda. And we happen to be in a place called Congo, which the borders that we inherited from the partition of Africa in 1885 during the Berlin Conference. And I don't think that there was anyone of us in that conference. There was no any African participants. So it was divided according to the interest of dividers. So it happened that communities, peoples, tribes, ethnic groups were divided and they found themselves on one side of the border. And that is a long time, which should unfortunately, could not be an issue today. The second issue was has to do with the colonial, the Belgian colonizing the Congo. When they colonized Congo, they happened to take away the chieftaincy of Banyamulenge communities or Tutsi in that regard in Eastern Congo, especially in South Kivu. So, and when they suppressed these kingdoms, chieftaincies, Banyamulenge remained without a land. And you can understand that culturally, traditionally, people were identified with their land. And to some point, Banyamulenge found themselves without land, which, of course, previously they owned. And so they found themselves being scattered into the lands that belonged to Bafuliru, Babembe, Bavira, and these were their neighbors. So that also created another problem, that whenever we identify ourselves with our land, it doesn't exist anymore. That was the other issue. The third issue was that after independence, the governments of Zaire and Congo, in that matter, all the governments that succeeded each other, they never solved that problem. And the
Mm.
problem continued uh, to exist in a sense. And whenever there was a conflict between Congo, Rwanda, so the issue of Banyamulenge and other Tutsi communities living in the area, so they become victim and become victim of a problem that doesn't belong to them.
Mm.
I remember in early 80s when Banyamulenge were it was during elections. And the Banyamulenge themselves found in a situation where they are barred, to vote and even to be voted, and on the ground that they don't belong, that they are Tutsis, Rwandese, foreigners.
Mm.
I remember that time I was still young, but I saw parents and standing up against that decision, and actually, literally, they banned the ballot votes. So these are some of the historical background where Banyamulenge feel that they are completely excluded, and they have been always used as a scapegoat of good governance. Whenever there is a problem with good governance, then in the Eastern Congo, they always want to assimilate the Banyamulenge to Rwandese. And this is totally different. We are not the only ones that have been separated by the colonial or the Berlin Conference, the Partition of Africa. And one of even the irony is that the Banyamulenge are not even on the border with Rwanda, nor with
Mm.
Burundi. They are in the interior, 200 kilometers away from the borders. But whenever there is a problem, you find that the issue goes very far and overlooking the people who live next to Rwanda, next to Burundi, next to Tanzania, but they see Banyamulenge inside the mountains, as if they are troublemakers.
Mm.
Recently, which also is related to the current conflict that is happening, is that in the process of the government of Congo to bring local government next to people, to have local people have access to administrative services. Congo divided, I mean, that was the government, the previous government of Kabila decided to divide Congo into 26 provinces and also into more territories and communes. And Minembwe happened also to be to be designated as a rural commune. But the current government decided to suspend the administration of this one commune, which is 10 square kilometers, very
Mm.
small, in a country of over 2 million, 300 and over 300 square kilometers. But this small one, 10 square kilometers, became a political issue in the country.
Mm.
And it was suppressed. In other words, you are having part of the community, part of the people, or not governed, not administered, that they don't deserve to have services near them. So before we can talk about the conflict of minerals. Before we can talk about the conflict between Congo and Rwanda, which I definitely don't want even to bring because that is not my interest. We need to think of humanitarian crisis. We have to also understand that there is an identity crisis that the government doesn't want to solve.
Mm.
I think that is how I would like to say it in terms of historical background of the what we are living today.
Yeah, thank you. Could you maybe have a couple of examples how that affected your own personal or family life?
One of the things I would like to say is that uh, we had never got access to services of the government, like even the schools. You know, all the schools that we have in the area are private schools that we had to create ourselves with churches or the missionaries. The clinics that we have, or health centers, are also initiated by the people themselves. We had never had any access to banking system, for instance, until we had to initiate one privately. Of course, it has been accredited by the central government, I mean, central bank of Congo. But these are initiatives that people privately try to bring in, you know.
Mm.
So when you look at the minimum services of the people that can get from their government, this has been totally absent in the area. Education wise, I mean, we everything we have to do it by ourselves. And when others get all these services from the government, you find that ourselves we don't unfortunately get those. Um, no roads. Of course, I know that Congo has a problem of infrastructures, but even when people want to do, their own, you find that there are things that require a lot of support from from central government, which unfortunately we don't have access to.
Mm.
Yeah.
Maybe to complete this part of the picture for the listeners, how does this then get enmeshed in the conflict between DRC and Rwanda? So how is this one then, I don't know, is it instrumentalized? But then so from this marginalization and neglect issue, it then becomes this geopolitical issue between a couple of states or so. So how does this usually happen and work in your experience?
In my experience is that politicians want always to get the easy way, and the easy way is to distract, the intentions or I mean attention of the people, divert it from the real issues to minor issues. Um, Instead of solving the problems that the country has, uh, people find it uh, easy to blame other people for their own mistakes or their own failures. And I think this is what personally I see uh, when the government of Congo tried to um, link the problem of Rwanda and the problem of Tutsis in the country. To me, is baseless. If Congo is taking care of its own people, because it shares 9 borders with different countries. Um, and it can solve the same way they deal with problems in other at other borders. They can also do the same at the border with Burundi, Rwanda, Tanzania, Zambia, and so on. if there is any problem, like as they say today, the issue of Rwanda, the interests of Rwanda for its own security or whatever, I don't want to get into that because I'm not their spokesperson. Neither the issue of Congo or the in relation to Rwanda, I don't want to get into that. I'm so much interested into the survival of Banyamulenge community and Tutsis communities in this zone or Eastern Congo zone. Why are we not getting the same services as others? Instead of serving us, instead of protecting us, instead of giving us the minimum basic services that we need, they call us names. Why is that? Why do they not want us to be Congolese as anyone who has the same rights to be Congolese? There is no why does the government of Congo want to feel us or to see us Rwandans than Congolese just because the way we look like, just because of our language, just because of the borders? We are not the only ones that have different languages or share languages with other tribes across borders. So I feel that beyond any reason that the governments can give, but people need right to live and need right to be protected. The issues, whether it is political, or economic, those are issues that the governments can solve can solve by themselves. But they should not bring in, civilians, women, children, into these issues. Otherwise, if I'm not being considered Congolese, I don't know any other place. I have never lived in other place. This is my home. And Congo is the only home that I have. Now, if I'm not being accepted by my government, for that matter, now whom are they giving me to? So, do they want me to be stateless? Do they want me to be foreigner in my own land? So these are the issues that we need to solve. And I don't think that we can, all of us, be taken into the problems, or differences that countries have. And they know how they can solve their problems. But the protection of the people within the limits, of their borders. They need to be protected. They need to be served as any other national in the country. Yeah.
So you already outlined this is a long historical problem. This did not begin yesterday. You referred to the changes in how to manage decentralization and taking back that step and leaving then your community and that region, yeah, without access to any administration services. Could you maybe explain how, I don't know, life got tougher maybe these past 10 to 15 years, which then may also increase tensions, etc., and which then ultimately led to your imprisonment. So maybe first the worsening of the conditions, and then what it was specifically that got you imprisoned at the end.
Yes, within the last 8 years, and that is actually from 2017 to today. Eastern Congo has been uh, been engulfed by this tribal conflict. It started as a tribal issue where militia got armed and started fighting. And unfortunately, the government was unable to solve the problem. And instead of solving the problem, at some point, they became, I mean, the government became partisan and calling the problem being a tribal between farmers and the pastoralists. But the issue was more than that. But even if it was, but the government was able and had mandate to solve this problem, but they never solved it. And now we have the Minembwe region destroyed up to 80% of it. 500,000 of cows completely disseminated, either killed or looted, and left people without any support at all. The government pulled out all its support, and even humanitarian agencies, they also pulled out. So there was nothing left to support these people. And these people had, I mean, the Banyamulenge themselves had to live by themselves, which also resulted into the killing, I mean, the death due to preventable diseases because lack of medicine, lack of services. Now, when there was efforts of peace building, which, of course, Banyamulenge also participated in. But at the same time, it was like the government was not very supportive that these people, I mean, all this region get enough peace. And when we had also to participate in this process, we were in Nairobi. I was personally part of the Nairobi process. And falsely, they started accusing us, and this was unfortunately with the UN group of experts, baseless reports that we are inciting people to get arms and defend themselves, and yet we are behind the peace process to succeed. We were bringing everyone either in Nairobi, but also locally. We were bringing all this, we're making efforts for people to come together. But you see, any interest, of bringing peace in this region, it was as if we are against the plans of destruction. So we became targeted. And that is how we actually ended up being in prison. And some of the questions that I was being asked, I was not being asked that I killed anyone, but I was being asked, why are you still working in Minembwe when everyone else has left? Why are you, talking about peace? You are preventing soldiers to fight. And who am I to prevent soldiers to fight? But if peace agreement has been signed, then why are you violating it? So these became issues around my arrest. I was not arrested that I killed, but I was arrested because I'm still working in Minembwe.
And your arrest was when exactly happening?
That was in June 2023, and I
Hmm.
was released in September 24.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I can only, of course, assume how tough your months in prison was. So if you like to share, please feel free, but there's no, no obligation to do so.
Yes, definitely a horrible experience because this was my first time to be arrested. But when I entered the prison, I also understood, you know, um, the plight of I mean, thousands of Congolese that they go through. Even if they are prisoners, they are still human. They need human dignity to be preserved. But when I arrived there, I found that people live as if they are completely forgotten by their own government.
Mm.
No basic services in prisons. You find that people don't get enough to eat, the place to stay, the health care is not there. It's not adequate. You have people who stay in a place that is that is, I mean, you have a space for 1,500 people, but you find that is having more than 15,000 people.
Mm.
So people, the magistrates, the courts and tribunals, they don't even think about, you know, the conditions in which people are in, and they treat people as if they are dead people. Even even in the graves, everyone is entitled to have his own grave or her own grave. But when you see that even the areas of detention are not in good conditions, so it is as if we are renouncing, or we are actually failing uh, to take responsibilities of our own people. And I think this is the same issue of governance. Whether
Mm.
people are free in their land, or for one reason or the other are in detention, they still deserve a better treatment.
Mm.
And this is what I feel that it is challenge. It is a challenge to our own government.
Mm. Just out of curiosity, because developments in these past months have been accelerating, what's your impression? How is life for the community, yes, since the takeover of authority by the M23?
Well, I think the again we should separate issues here.
Hmm.
There is an issue with armed groups and rebels. There is an against the government, or the government against its own rebels. That is one issue. The second issue is, how do we treat people
Hmm.
caught up, you know, in this situation of crossfire and issues. The challenge that we see is that people who are in the east, in areas controlled by the rebels, um, it is as if the government takes um, all of them, takes the whole region in a block,
Hmm.
and not looking at the situation, the humanitarian crisis that this or their decisions are causing on the people, like the closing of the banks.
Hmm.
So these are the money. These money are not the money of that belong to rebels. These are money of business people, of civil servants, and people themselves. But when banks are closed, so whom are you punishing? So you are, in other words, you are punishing your own people. That's the problem.
Hmm.
Now, if people in the East cannot freely travel to West or to other places that are controlled by the government, and the people can leave the government place and zones and travel to the East. So, in other words, you are actually, favoring the partition of the country, and we have seen this between 1998 through 2003 during the war, when the country was again divided. Should we go into that again? I think that is not the solution. Um, People have to look at ways to solve the problems that they have. And without punishing innocent people, without punishing civilians. I mean, initiatives for peace are there, and we would like to encourage all parties involved to actually do it with good intention, so
Mm.
that we can bring to an end, the suffering caused to the
Mm.
people. For instance, the people in Minembwe, today they are completely besieged. They cannot come in, they cannot come out. And supplies of goods is becoming so much difficult. Today we are having 1 kilo of sugar almost at $10. We are having a kilo
Mm.
of salt at $7.
Mm.
And yet we are in the same country, but the government is not looking at this as punishing the population itself.
Mm.
You are not punishing the rebels, but you can talk with rebels and have peace, and protect the population. But when the populations are also becoming victims of these conflicts, so somehow the government is not helping and is making more and more enemies than bringing people together.
Mm. I mean, you refer to peace ideas, peace initiatives, and there was a peace process, 15, like in the 2000s, etc., and uh, almost a peace agreement to be to be signed or to be realized. How do you remember that peace process and how that benefited back then?
I think that is the time when we started feeling that there is some responsibilities within our government. Um, and you could see the sense of rebuilding a nation, that people have to come together, regardless of their problems, regardless of their political differences, that they can all come and sit on one table and find a common ground. We still long to see that. Unfortunately, to see more fruits of that. But unfortunately, this peace agreement that was signed in 2003 in Sun City, in South Africa, it seems that it's no longer have any value today, because it's completely destroyed. And we had even the current government thinking of changing, the constitution, which was a result actually of this peace process. Now, when we feel that whoever can come, take power, and change everything that has been done by his predecessor, it means that we will, within the next other 60 years, we will never have a strong government, a strong nation, a strong state, because whoever comes want to destroy what has been built previously and start. So we can actually be in that cycle of trying to rebuild. I mean, to build a new thing.
Mm.
Now, um, today the government has tried to be into the, these peace processes. The Nairobi one, that's what I was in. And I thought that was more important for us because it was mainly involving the local armed groups and local people,
Mm,
where we felt that there is a real sense of ownership and participation.
mm,
But that unfortunately didn't continue. And it was replaced by what now we have today, Doha and Washington. And those are very extant. I mean, they are very distant processes, I would say, being very political and economic. But
mm,
still, I don't see how they are related to the plight of the people on the ground. How are we involving the people, the local people, armed groups, for that matter, locally, so that they can also participate? Now, in Doha, mainly it is between the government of Congo and the rebel movement of M23. US is basically Rwanda and Congo. Where are the Congolese in all this? We see
mm,
that we are still hanging in the air, and the local initiatives are not being supported, as I can see. We are talking in terms of what the religious leaders started, that is the Protestant and the Catholic churches started, but they lacked the political support. But we feel that Congolese are being left out. And that also, unfortunately, continues to put them into difficulties and widening uh, uh, the humanitarian crisis. Because
mm,
people who are dying are so many, whether by bullets or by the effects and the consequences of all these problems. We are having millions of people who are being displaced. And
mm,
yet, we see that if there is a will to negotiate seriously, there will be definitely a solution.
mm. Yeah, we will have come to an end in a couple of minutes, but I would like to have your final, yeah, impression on that. Usually, also in like from the literature and from what people have studied, ordinary peace on an everyday basis by ordinary people and communities. That usually counts as a big and strong element for at least the eventual condition of making peace again in the future. So, how would you say that these days and these months, everyday interactions between, you know, members from your community and other ordinary communities and people in the Congolese, is that still happening, or has that been severely damaged and beyond recovery? What's your impression on that?
My impression is that there is still a way of making lasting peace, but um, everyone has to play his or her own part, be it on local level, be it on national level, be it on regional level and international level. This, of course, is an issue that many people want to take it with sentiments, and people want to give, their lecture according to what they feel like or they want to see. But uh, the peace of Congo is also the peace of everyone
Mm,
in the Congo, and everyone has to be part of this.
mm,
But unfortunately, we are not seeing these initiatives happening as it were, for instance, in early 2000, that even local people get involved where they are. Secondly, it is peace. This has also to be an interest on national level. And on national level, we want to invite Congolese to feel that they belong to Congo, regardless of the language they speak, regardless of how they look like, regardless of which part of the country they belong. We are all Congolese, and we belong to this nation called Congo. And we have all of us to understand that way. The third thing, Congo shares borders with 9 countries. And whether we like it or not, Congo and their neighbors have to find a common ground. They have to understand each other. They have to accept one another, to live as neighbors. And if we accept one another, Rwanda has to accept Congo. Congo has to accept Burundi and each other. I'm talking about this and these 3 countries that belong to Great Lakes region, but also we can talk of Uganda and Tanzania because they all part of this eastern region. We need to live together. And we need to find, even when they talk about the regional politics and regional economic issues, they can also find ways to deal with those issues and develop, mechanisms that can help, our regional economic integration, that everyone can benefit, than looking at everyone as an enemy. Now, we can keep killing each other and we never profit all the benefit all the resources that are there. Now, using the blame, whether Rwanda can blame Congo, whether and vice versa, it doesn't help. But people have to sit together and solve these problems. And this is not just our problem ourselves, but it is also the problems of our the coming generations. What are we, leaving behind for our children to enjoy if we are not there to move away the borders? Rwanda and Congo will be together until. And then a solution has to be found. And I think also the international community has also to be part of this process than siding, with whoever they favor, either for political or economic interests. But they have also to support, they have to be part of the peace processes that everyone is included instead of being excluded because of different views that people may have. And I don't think on that issue, which I would like probably to finish with, is when international communities take sanctions on one or the other group and yet call them to come to the table of negotiation. I think they are messing up with the whole process. Instead of bringing them together, they want to use some of the colonial, which unfortunately I could say, systems where you feel that you are stronger than the other, then you can do whatever you want to do. But I think we have to open up the space for dialogue, be it local and international, that we include everyone so that the voice of each one can be heard. And that will help us to solve the problems. And I personally feel that there is still a hope that Congo can still be a very strong nation a very prosperous nation, a united nation.
Mm. Thank you very much, Lazare, for this talk, for your impressions, for your analysis, your explanations, and your experience, sharing your experiences with us today. And yeah, I can only wish you all the best and hope with you that there will be better years coming for the country. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for giving me also this time to share, an opportunity to share with you. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. All right,
Thank you.
all the best, Lazare.
Okay, thank you.